Greetings and salutations, and we're back with more hardcore one talent challenge, Sacrifice Paladin. Now, I have might aura granted to me by an item, so that's almost it. And that's how this works. I'm only allowed to put into one talent, but whatever I get through items is okay. So today, on Hearthstone, I know that most people don't really care about Hearthstone, but today on Hearthstone, they started showing a teaser for a few new cards. One of the new cards is rather interesting, but you can't really use it right now because I'm guessing I got on and I was going to make a couple decks. And the decks were, every single deck I tried to put it in was banned. Like I tried to put it in I tried to put it in a Shaman deck, and apparently it's banned in Shaman. I tried to put it in a Druid deck, and apparently it's banned in Druid. And I couldn't figure out why. And then the first thing that occurred to me was, well, the only reason it could be banned in those decks is because those decks can do some sort of shenanigans. Maybe they have it banned across the board because it's too strong, or some other reason, I don't know, but nevertheless, it is banned. But the card is called Mr. Clocksworth. It's an 8 mana 3/3, and it has a battle cry that says summon 2 random legendary minions. Which sounds terrible for an 8 mana 3/3, but it has the new keyword rewind. Now, rewind says, don't like the result of the minions you got? Hit rewind. And you get it again. And he has rewind 3 times. Which means it'll rewind the minions you've got, and it'll give you 2 new ones. Don't like them? You can rewind a second and third time. But if you do like what you got, you can keep it by just hitting keep this timeline. So it's a really interesting keyword in rewind. And now there's a lot of people already making fun of it out there and saying, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. You know, what is this shenanigans? Is this Magic the Gathering? And you have content creators that are already dogging on it, saying that these cards, some of these cards are garbage. And it's like, okay, the expansion's not even out, and you guys are calling it garbage. Is that the smart thing to do? No. No, it's not. Wow. But yeah, it's like people are already dogging on the card, and it's like, why is everybody dogging on the cards, man? Whoa. My life total went down by a lot. Right there. Real quick. Was not a fan of them. But I just don't like why they're dogging on the cards. Like, for example, that you have people right now. Zeddy is one of them, and a lot of Zeddy's takes I disagree with. And it's almost like he does it just to be that guy. You know what I mean? And people say, like, what do you mean that guy? Well, let's realistically think about it, right? You know the type. That because the game's not flowing in the direction they want, they're immediately going to claim that the game is trash. And it's like, but wait, how's that possible? I mean, the game's popular, people are playing it, how's it trash? Oh, because it's not doing this specific thing I want it to do. That doesn't make the game trash. That makes the game trash to you. And it's like, it's almost like there's this disconnect. Because he was saying that you take a look at the mini set, and that the mini set pretty much was spending 2,000 gold and getting nothing. I wouldn't say that at all. I'm sure that there's an applicable use for a lot of the cards in the mini set. Like Beastmaster Taka has a lot of applicable uses. The problem is they linked it to the Death Rattle, and then the Death Rattle, when silenced, no longer works. And it goes even one step further, and that is, if you play Beastmaster Taka and he gets silenced, you lose pretty much all the minions that he was going to Death Rattle into, and you can't play Endbringer Umbra to get the minions anyway. Like, let's say you do get the Death Rattle, and the minions are summoned, and then you play Umbra. It doesn't work. You no longer get the minions from Umbra. And you should. It should log what minions you should log exactly what minions you got, and then say, okay, well, he got this minion, this minion, this minion. We're going to give him these minions. That's the way it should work. That's the way it makes sense. Also, remember how I said a while ago that I wanted to check and see if Brawl the Seer Stone worked with the Death Rattle on the Elementals? The Sizzling Cinders? It does not. So Brahma Seer Stone's extra damage does not actually switch over to the Sizzling Cinders. Death Rattle damage. And it should, because they're elementals. But it does not. So, such is the way of life. But I like the idea. I mean, you have two new keywords. You have Rewind and Fabled. Fabled slots 3 cards in your deck when you put in the 1 card. Now, some of the Fabled cards are kind of broken. And there's a card that's even more broken than Fabled, than the Fabled cards, and it's the Warlock card. And the Warlock card is disgusting. It's called Divergence. And it essentially says a random minion in your hand splits into 2 copies, and now you can play them for half stats and half cost. Remember that? The mage minion Mezzadune. And it was drawing an elemental from your deck and splitting it into 2 halves. Yeah. This is Mezzadune for Warlocks, but it's a minion that's already in your hand, and it's at random. So it's a bit funky. Is it jail level 2? It's got the waypoint? I'm gonna go check. But no, they've they're doing things that are interesting in Hearthstone, right? With the rewind, with the Fabled cards. Hopefully, what they need to do is, instead of putting Fabled on just legendaries, they really need to put Fabled on, like, common cards and uncommon cards. And epic, or not uncommon, but common cards, rare cards, and epic cards. Really put Fabled on it, and even if it's just giving you a couple of extra cards in your deck for Fabled, it helps, because it's giving you a little extra value.
What you need?
Because then you can make a completely Fabled deck, and it would be insane. Because then you put 10 cards in the deck, and you'd have 30 cards. And you would be playing off all the Fabled synergies. And that's how it should be. You should be able to play off those Fabled synergies. But that's not how it's going to work. So, therein lies the problem. Because what Blizzard's going to do, and you can tell that they've already started to do it, by putting Fabled on specifically one card, you are locking that card right where it is. Like, you're saying, this card has Fabled, nothing else can have that mechanic.
Good day.
And now it's like, build your entire deck around that mechanic on one card. Perfect example of this, where it failed, was the tourism cards, right? You'd have to get the legendary tourist card that said, for Death Knight, it said Shaman Tourist, and it was blank. Chair had a problem. There we go. For the Death Knight card, you had buttons, and it said Shaman Tourist, and it says draw battle cry, draw a spell of each school, whatever. No big deal, right? However, how it should have read is battle cry, draw cards for each spell that doesn't exist in your, for draw a spell, one of each spell school, right? Then the tourist cards, this is how they should have done it. It should have said Shaman Tourist, okay, and then what that did is you change the mechanics so that the tourism mechanic says Shaman cards you play cost less. That's what the mechanic should have been. And of course, I'm going to be met with pushback on this when I say it. Reason they should have done it that way. The key reason. Let's say you play a tourist card, okay? And it says Shaman spells you play cost X amount of less to play or have an extra effect. What have you? You can now put tourist cards that say tourist. And you can put those cards in any deck. So if it's a Demon Hunter card and it says tourist, you can put that in another deck. So now you have synergies that go across all classes. Instead of Demon Hunter went to Priest, Death Knight went to Shaman, Shaman went to Hunter, or there was another one that Shaman went to. Shaman got Turbulus. Shaman went to Hunter, Warrior went to Druid, Priest went to Hunter, Mage went to Rogue, Mage also went to Paladin, Paladin went to Rogue, Shaman went to... What is the other Shaman Tourist card? Hold up. I'm really curious on that. Deck builder. Hold on. Let's see. Man, is everybody just like pinging the card library? Apparently everybody's pinging it to death. Shaman went to Demon Hunter. So yeah, Shaman went to Demon Hunter, and Shaman also goes to Hunter. Priest went to Hunter. Death Knight went to Shaman. Rogue went to Paladin. Not Rogue, sorry. Mage went to Paladin. Mage also went to Rogue. Warlock went to Death Knight. Demon Hunter went to Priest. Rogue went to Warlock. Druid goes to Mage. Hunter goes to Warrior. Paladin goes to Rogue. And then Warrior goes to Druid. That's what they did back in the tourist cards. Now, had they said the tourist cards actually had the cards in specifically in that set said tourist, instead of the legendary saying whatever tourist, and then the legendaries gave a benefit to having those specific tourist cards in your deck, you now create a multiple synergy where you can have certain classes running a lot of cards from all the new set, and you could be like, well, I have a card just for that. And now you've created this brand new synergy. What they did is they restricted it to such a degree of you would see a bunch of tourist decks, and there's very few tourist decks now. And it's kind of weird because you used to see them everywhere. And I mean, they were pernicious. They were like trying to stomp out weeds. And now you don't see them anymore. At all. You might see maybe a Death Knight one where they're running buttons, but that's only to draw spells. They only put buttons in to draw the spells. Which sounds completely lame, but think about it. Drawing spells specifically allows you to search for things like the leech spells, which I can't stand. I think the leeches are the dumbest thing they could have done with Death Knight. Because now everybody plays triple blood Death Knight. Nobody plays triple rune anything else. They don't play Rainbow Death Knight. They used to. Back when they had necromantic something explosion. Chaotic? What was it? Necrotic chaotic explosion? Something like that? I don't know, I never had the card. But it was a 10 mana Death Knight card where you burned up a whole bunch of corpses and cast this big spell that did damage based on the number of corpses, and then summoned a whole bunch of minions based on the number of corpses. It was a really cool card, really cool flavor. But it was Rainbow Death Knight, and nobody played it. Because it just didn't, the card didn't have the support. And it's the craziest thing. The cards don't get the support, and then all of a sudden you're just like, okay, well. It's like, why not? And then they go and they make something like Blood Death Knight, which is nothing short of a war crime. They should feel bad about that, but they don't. I don't get it. Like Triple Blood Death Knight, turn 2, you drop turn 2 does 2 damage to a target. Could be player, could be creature, and summons an O2 leech on board. So you get your leech. And then, when you have your leech, at the end of your turn, it leeches a life, a maximum life, not 1 life and then it does 1 damage, and so on. It leeches maximum life away from the target and gives it to the user, gives it to the owner, the leech's owner. This is a balance change that needs to happen with the leech, and they'll never do it. Never. And that is, they need to make it so that it says, does 1 damage to the lowest health. and then gives that health to um the owner, the leech's owner. Of course, they won't do damage because then everybody will just play Divine Shield, and then you never take damage. You never worry about it. But if they make the leech thing ignore Divine Shield but not lower your maximum health, or just put in the errata on the end of it that says this does not affect your maximum health. Just that. Something so simple that I don't have to worry about having my entire maximum health eviscerated to 7. Right? I mean, remember when Warlocks had the Excavate package? Yeah, the whole Warlock Excavate package back in Showdown in the Badlands. What happened? Well, Excavate Warlock became so pernicious because they would excavate 4 times, they'd get their legendary Scorpion, they'd play the Scorpion, and then pull it back to their hand. Then play another Scorpion and pull it back to their hand. All they had to do was just play it a few times and the opponent was dead. But yet, they then nerf the Scorpion to 6 mana, or 8 mana, or whatever, and nerf the amount of life it leeches. But I hate to say it, that leeching life thing was so strong that people still played the Scorpion. Even at 8 mana, they would wait till turn 10, drop the Scorpion for 8, pop it back to their hand for 2, and then rinse repeat. That's how powerful that ability is. So what did the Blizzard do? Logically, in their mind, the smart move was, we're going to give that same exact ability to Death Knights. Only on a much smaller scale. I mean, if you sit there and you think about it, the leeches, yeah, they only have 2 health. And everybody's like, there you go. They've only got 2 health. No big deal. You know how hard it is to get 2 health off of something when the creatures you play don't have rush? You have no way to effectively wipe the board. And now those leeches are constantly stealing your maximum health. I don't have a problem with it taking health, right? Go ahead, take the health. Don't make it maximum health. So, I'm at 30 when I start. You hit me with a leech, I go to 28 of a maximum 30. The leech then leeches a life off of me, which should make it 27 of 30. But that's not how it functions. How it functions is it becomes 27 of 29. And that is kind of boneheaded. It's almost like the development crew didn't think. They just said, well, you know what, throw it in there, we'll fix it in post if it becomes an issue. And then they played another card, they put another card in there that says, gives your leeches +1 health steal. Leeches were completely insane and broken, and they still are. You almost can guarantee a win if you're playing Leech DK. Almost. Wow. got a bit of power to it. Gonna give him the old trident. See what happens. Probably a bad idea because it's slow attack speed. But whatever. I'm a plethora of bad ideas. Poison resist.
I'll put that to good use.
Thank you. The fact that I'm running around with a giant spear. The fact that I'm running around with a spear shaped like a giant fork. I mean, this is just wacky. And it says slow attack speed, but it doesn't look slow. Ow. I mean, that sacrifice hits hard. It's got a lot of attack rating, so that's got that covered.
There is great evil here.
Makes me wonder though, like, what's the criteria for the sacrifice damage? Is the criteria for the sacrifice damage your percentage of your health, or is it a percentage of like overall health, or is it a percentage of the enemy, or is it a percentage of the damage you deal as health? Like, they never clarify. Because if you look, it just says 4% damage to self. Hold on. Let's read this. Current skill level 14. 4% damage to self. Attack rating and tons of damage. Okay. 4% of what? 4% of the damage I deal? So is it 4% of my entire damage dealing ability as health? Is it 4% of my life? Like, the damage I deal has 4... Like, I get extra damage, but the damage I deal is 4% of my life? Like, can I get a... Can we get a do-over on this and figure out how it works? If it's 4% of the damage I deal, right? Let's do some fast math, right? 82 to 119. So let's just say 80 to 120. Okay? 80 to 120. How do you figure this out? Right? Top end is 1.2. Low end is 0.8 times 4. So 0.8 times 4 is 3.2. And the other one is 4.8. So 4.8 life every time I use sacrifice as a maximum, or 3 point something life every time I use sacrifice. Like, that doesn't seem very penalizing, does it? And I'm guessing it's my entire damage and not just like the damage on sacrifice. Which then makes it even more weird because oh. Right there, I was getting excited over the socketed Rondash. The thing that gets me is, did you notice the little block animation that they have? These goblins have a block animation, so they can block your attack. And if they block your attack, or if you miss, you still take the damage. Rightfully so, that's the cost of casting it. It doesn't cost mana, it costs life. So if it costs life, theoretically speaking, if we figured out the calculation that is 4% of your damage as life, that means you can watch your life with a very with high scrutiny and find out that how much damage you're going to deal, right? So if you're watching your life, because we already know it goes 3.2, at least for me, it goes 3.2 to 4.8 life per swing. Okay? So if we see that it takes, if we see I go to swing and it takes four life, I can almost guarantee it's going to be a heavier hit because it took 4 life. And it tells me as an indicator, hey, you're going to hit hard. But you'd have to be highlighting your life total in order to be able to do that math. And you'd have to understand what your life total is, how much you've lost, and you'd have to really, like, almost do fast math to figure out if your hits are going to be hard or not. Ow. Because if you can figure it all out and you can do the math on it, it'll become an invaluable skill. Because you could just sit there and watch your life and be like, I'm going to hit him hard. Kind of a weird roulette, though, because it has to spend the life to cast it. So even if you miss, it's spending the life. So now you can get even more agitated when you miss and it's spending like 4.2 life, and that was going to be the maximum, like, top end damage of your hit. And you just spent life and you missed. I mean, if you really think about it, think about all the code that went into that. Just the simple sacrifice ability. You have, if life total equals blah, 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 then, 4% or times 4% or whatever. You have that whole, because there's a true-false statement that's attached to it, too. And that true-false statement comes in later when, if you don't have enough life, you can't cast the ability, right? So it's, if life is above 4.2, using my current percentage as an example, if life is above 4.2, then cast sacrifice. Otherwise, don't cast sacrifice, print error message. So that's how it works. Yeah, that's an if-then statement. But now let's take a deeper. God, so many zombie heads. Let's take a deeper look at it. Okay. You're casting this ability. whether it hits anybody or not, you're still casting the ability. So now it has to cast the ability. So it has to spend the life, run the if-then check. Or it has to run the if-then check, spend the life, cast the ability. And when the ability casts, it now has to roll an integer for damage. That integer for damage is based off the life spent. So it rolls an integer for damage. Now, when it goes to hit the enemy, it has to factor in attack rating, defense rating, block chance, miss chance, and it has to run an if-then for each of those. And then it has to score the damage and then make sure the mob dies accordingly. That's just sacrifice. That's a lot of math for an ability. Oh, and then it also has to cue graphical use of sacrifice. Has to cue the graphics, which is blood spurt. Oh, and it has to cue the sound effect. So there you go. Those are all the things it has to do. And it also has to cue the sound effect for when you hit the mob and when the mob dies. All that code at the same time. Simultaneously. It's a wonder that Sacrifice Paladins didn't absolutely tank weak PCs back in the day. Though I don't think Sacrifice Paladins worked effectively back in the day either. To be honest with you. I don't think Sacrifice Paladins were calculating the health enough. Now, here's an even bigger noodle scratcher. Let's say you start adding lifesteal. And the lifesteal is 3%. There you go. I picked up a chip skull, and there's your lifesteal. Let's say the lifesteal is 3%. Is it 3% of my maximum life stolen per hit? Is it 3% of the enemy's maximum life stolen per hit? Is it 3% of the damage I do as life stolen per hit? There are some things that need clarity. That's one of them. Truthfully. It does need clarity. And a lot of it. A lot of the other abilities are just straightforward. Like the attack rating bonus, that's straightforward. It's just, here's your attack rating 70% bonus. Alright, tack 70% on it, guys. Here's this, get extra strength. Oh, okay. Just basic. Basic mathematics. Crazy though, because I don't understand. Everything else is done as an integer, as a very straightforward calculation, incredibly straightforward. For example, weapons 42 attack rating. So your attack rating gives you plus 40. Simple. 10 poison damage over 3 seconds. There's your damage. There's your poison. Simple. 2% life stolen per hit, 1% mana stolen per hit. 2% of what life? Whose life? Doesn't work on skeletons, so maybe it's not mob life. So why doesn't it work on skeletons? Well, they're not technically alive. These were the mental gymnastics that we had to jump through as, consumers of this product back in the day. And it made you think. Do they even know what they're doing? It's a good game, don't get me wrong. But a lot could have been done with clarity. Like clarity on how does this ability work, how does these spells work. Because we kind of want to know. That way we're not making mistakes. We're going to try to get down there and kill Endara before this ends. I'm already at 40 minutes. I may, depending on how fast the next ones go. Well, there's number 3. Depending on how fast this goes, I might just... If this goes relatively quick, then I will, I'll kill Endari. If it doesn't go relatively quick, I will, save it for next time. Four? This is insanity. I take more damage when they hit me than I do when I hit them. Now, if you were to able to use all your skills, unlike me doing a 1-talent challenge, if you were able to use all your skills, you could really make a solid sacrifice build. Truthfully. Because not only does sacrifice hit hard, and it has a lot of attack rating, it also gains benefits from redemption and zeal? Not zeal. Redemption and, fanaticism. Doesn't show them. Redemption and fanaticism. And of course, redemption is defensive auras right there. And then fanaticism is an offensive aura right there. So if you're not doing a 1-talent challenge, you could technically make an insane sacrifice build. The only problem is you have to effectively either have your redemption going to get life back or have life steal. Also do a ton of damage though. Yes. I don't know why I'm yawning. I mean, I do know why I'm yawning. I've been getting garbage sleep lately. And it's mostly my own demise. Architect of my own demise. Reason being. And it never happens anywhere else. Okay? Let me just say that right now. It never happens anywhere else in the house. I can go downstairs and lay on the couch and just crash Right there's Andariel's chamber. I can go down, lay down on the couch, and just crash right there. Just fall asleep in no time. And I'm just 5 minutes, I'm done. I'm asleep. Um, but let me go to my bed. And the couch is uncomfortable, by the way. The couch is very uncomfortable. But let me go to my bed. And I'm no longer tired. At all, actually. In fact, I get a second wind. I no more than lay down in bed. And my bed is extremely comfortable. It is a purple pillow, or it's a purple mattress. So I'm sitting there, and my bed is extremely comfortable, and I'm just wide awake. It didn't matter how tired I was laying down. I lay down, and the moment I hit the pillow, I am wide awake. 100% wide awake. I wished I knew. What was causing it? These Andariel.
My work here is finished.
Wow.
And
That was quite the power kill. There's poison length reduced, which is great. I'll put Fleet Gloves away. I like it, but meh. It's kind of poo. That's poo too. No, I have no idea what it is, or what's causing it.
good evening.
And it's not like I'm sitting there on my screen, like on my phone watching something. I mean, yeah, I do watch maybe an episode of anime, but after that, I throw on some relaxing music, and I leave it just sitting over there playing next to me, and then I roll the opposite direction so that I can't see the the light of the screen. I don't know why. I go in, I lay down, and I'm wide awake. So I've been getting like 5.5 hours of sleep a night, and it's just terrible.
Good day.
What was I gonna do here? I was gonna sell these. They're both probably more than 10K. Oh, that one's only just 5,000. That one is 10K, so that's what it's sold to. I'm gonna go buy some boots. Should I get a new mercenary? Nope. I'm looking for a very specific boot. Ooh, half freeze duration. I like that. And yes, I'm gambling for Sanders riprap. For the sake of this, we're gonna do this. So we don't sell those.
Welcome to the desert rain.
When I get a new mercenary. Yes. Now, I do prayer. Prayer heals me. That'll keep me alive when using sacrifice. I could go with the blessed aim, and that gives me accuracy. And if I go with defiance, it gives me defense. Accuracy might be an issue later on. Prayer seems nice. Just the healing. And that could keep myself afloat for a bit. Outside of that, does it have any purpose? If I get insight polearm, it does, because then it stacks with the insight. It stacks with the meditation. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with a prayer. I normally do, and we're going to get Laharis. He sounds like an individual. A good one. There you go, Laharis.
To good use.
See, I have enough money to go buy just a two-hander. Both slow attack speed. That's normal attack speed. Superior spear. We'll just buy that. A Bardiche. 5 to 150 foot weight. Terrible. Well, anyway. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I had a wonderful time making it. I think it's fantastic. I enjoy this series. I really do. And I enjoy it, and I'm grateful to every single person that comes out. Just I really am. I do this to try to be entertaining, to try to be philosophical, to try to be just a moment's respite away from the daily grind. I generally don't like letting it go for 53 minutes. I would love to shorten them down to like 23, 30 minutes because you have viewer retention that's a bit problematic. And of course, there's probably some people out there that throw it on and fall asleep to my voice because reasons. I've put people to sleep before by talking, so it doesn't surprise me. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming out, watching. I hope you enjoyed the video because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it. I had a wonderful time. I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, or a wonderful evening, or a fantastic evening, a wonderful tomorrow, and as always, I'm totally confused. You can see the lack of sleep. Fantastic evening, wonderful tomorrow, and as always, have a good one.